let's just get into basketball. Towards the end of preseason now, who are your big standouts? Mainly young guys. I mean, we know Bradley Beal, Steph Curry, LeBron. Who are your young kind of standouts that have surprised you or been where you think they would be?
I mean, if you're going to talk standouts, you have to start with the alien.
Yeah, I'm blown away by that guy.
So I was listening to the JJ Redick's podcast the other day, which is exceptional, by the way. You guys should watch that. It's awesome. And he has an acquaintance that is a part of the staff with San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, really?
And he said that acquaintance was texting him kind of on the build-up in some of the open runs and getting ready coming into the preseason, and just basically said, bro, this guy does things every day we've never seen. Every day.
Well, and people are already seeing that in game. The dunk he had on Thomas Bryant, where Bryant was just like, what?
So they've played him sparingly in the preseason games, and then they played him against the Miami Heat, and the Heat didn't play. Like Adebayo didn't play, Jimmy Butler wasn't there, Hero wasn't there, but the alien Wembanyama
there's no other name.
Played around. I think it was just over 20 minutes. Not a whole ton of minutes, but he did 4 things in that game that when you watch it, you're like, huh? I did, at least. And I'm trying to figure out in my mind what I've just seen. The one was when he catches the ball at the 3-point line, Euro steps, 2-hand dunks like it's nothing.
Right.
Like without losing speed. Goes right around his defender. We've all seen the dunk that he did over Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant's look where he looks to the side. It was just kind of a fan's video. And he's just like, oh, what the hell? Like he hasn't experienced that before.
What do I do there?
And Thomas Bryant is not a helpless little player. He's a big dude.
Yeah, and a good defender.
Yeah. Not to mention the block that he had on the game before against the Thunder on Jalen Williams, when Jalen Williams shakes him hard and goes far side of the rim, and he still gets over there and blocks it. Whew. Anyways, that guy.
I thought we'd see a little bit more of what we saw in Summer League, where he kind of comes in and gets pushed around, beat up a little bit, and a little hesitant, shots not falling. He's looked just fine.
Oh my goodness.
That guy is incredible. I am excited to see the next 5-10 years of that guy's career, of what he could, if he stays healthy, what could happen there.
And if you were a great player in a contract year, say Anthony Edwards in a couple of years, why would you not go and play with that guy? How many rings would you haul in?
No kidding.
Anyway, so as far as a young player, I'm super excited to see him during the regular season minutes and what goes on in his development. And
that's my big thing I'm curious to see. I honestly think the only reason he doesn't win Rookie of the Year this year, well, because he doesn't play enough games. You now have to play 65 games.
Maybe, huh?
And there was already talk that the Spurs were going to be resting him quite a bit. Resting him now, whatever they want to call it. But yeah, I don't see him playing over 70 games. Maybe hits the 65 mark.
Yeah, that could very well be a thing. I mean, that's just 17 games. So he's been fantastic. We've been big Scoot fans. We've talked about him.
I've enjoyed watching his physicality immediately, which we knew, but immediately with his development in the G League, that dude is just thick, and grown men try to guard him and he just throws them aside like they're nothing.
The physicality, you also see just some of the smarts of pick and roll basketball, or knowing when to drive and when to pull up. If he gets consistent jumper along with those other factors, wow, fantastic player.
That's the big thing that I loved about him with the Ignite, is with his talent, with the hype around him and everything like that, that's a guy that usually overpresses, forces things, and takes way more shots than he should. He's almost, in my opinion, not taking enough shots. He could be more aggressive looking for his own shot right now.
You could see somebody with those kind of tools just thinking, I'm Russell Westbrook. I can just fly to the rim and do crazy physical feats, right? And you wouldn't blame him, but he's really focused, in props to him and the people around him for giving them the right advice and him taking it in to really build his all-around game and be intelligent. And he'll be a a fantastic player for it. I can't wait to see it. I only worry that he's maybe not going to have the ball in his hands enough this year because of
Anthony
a
Simons.
great player beside him, Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons is a heck of a player, but
Right.
it might be a situation that takes the ball out of his hands a little bit. But you can't blame him if they want to play him too. Even if it's the two small guards together, as an organization, those are tough decisions, and it would be difficult to break that up.
That's not even talking about Shaden Sharp.
Yeah, and Shaden Sharp, man, did it look like his little bump our guy off mid-range jumper just looked like layup after layup?
Yeah.
It looks so easy.
Yeah, he looks good. A big one that has been a standout to me. I've a friend at work who's a Nuggets fan, so he kind of brought him on for me. But Julian Strother, I was looking yesterday. He's like top 5 in points per game in the preseason, which people are in and out, but consistently scoring 20 points a game and looks freaking good. That was the big question with the Nuggets, was their depth, right? Going into this next season, as they lost a couple guys, what was going to happen there? And holy crap, that dude looks like he's ready to step right into that kind of role.
He's a player that stayed at least 3 years in college out of Gonzaga. Did he stay 4 or 3? I can't remember. But they kind of followed a similar pattern as they did with Christian Braun the year before, right? Played his full years at Kansas and came out and was a mature player that can shoot. And it may be enough with all the tools they have. I mean, they lost Bruce Brown, Jeff Green. Who else? Trying to think. But he's been really good, and he's even made some defensive plays, if I remember some of the highlights. And that was really his question mark, being scouted coming out of college into the draft. So he's really stepped forward, and it's interesting which players' skills and traits translate to the next level, which ones don't. Tamani Kamara has looked really good in this preseason.
He has.
He's another second rounder. And the amount of fours that were drafted before him, and I think he did 3 years in college. He did a year at Georgia before he transferred over to Dayton. So
that's the thing about this draft is there's so many later picks that could be special.
We watched Ricky Council IV in Summer League.
Right.
He was a heck of a player.
And it shocked me with how well he looked in Summer League in Salt Lake.
It'll be interesting to see. I haven't tracked them enough, but is he going to get, because Jalen McDaniels left the Sixers, is he going to get in there and find some regular minute playing time? But he's another second rounder that looked like he was ready to step right in.
Right.
Fantastic player.
And then talking guys, not necessarily young guys, but guys that maybe have surprised a little bit. It's one for me that a little bit more near and dear has been Dante Exum's story. There's talk they could start him at the 3 with his size and Doncic's size, and with his defensive abilities, it would help out that team with how much they're going to struggle defensively with Kyrie and Luka. I loved Dante in the draft when Utah drafted him and just couldn't stay healthy and just things didn't work out for him. Seeing him come back this year, I'm excited to see what he does. He's played well in preseason so far. He obviously hasn't put up these huge points and numbers and stuff like that, but he's not that type of guy.
They don't need that. Right?
Yeah, they don't need him to do that. They need him to be able to move the ball. They need him to be able to knock down shots, which he's actually come in and hit like a 40% rate.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure he shot 40% from 3 last year overseas. And then preseason he shot solid. And so if he can do that with his defensive abilities, I'm excited to see a little bit of a resurgence with that guy's career.
It's great story for him, and he was a good dude, good teammate when he was here in Utah.
Yeah,
somebody that we cheered for and wanted to succeed. It just didn't happen to fall in line, and those injuries, man, that's in anybody's sporting career, that's something that could jump up and bite you. But he's went overseas and done the work and come back. And if that's something that he can put together, and Dallas could be tough this year between him and Grant Williams filling in some needs. It'll be interesting to see if their 2 rookies can fill in with Maxence Prosper and Derek Lively.
Right.
If they can really fill some holes, and Dallas could be tough by the end of the season. They could make a run.
They could.
They've got offense.
It's going to come down to their defense. Yep. Because last year, I mean, they were still an incredible offensive team and didn't even make the play in.
Yeah, it was an incredible slide they had at the end of the year. So that'll be fun to watch them. Even though it'll be more fun for me to cheer against them. Sorry, I tipped my hand there. I can't wait to see. Speaking of the Dallas Mavericks, I want to see Luka, see if he can get to the point where he kind of matures emotionally for that team. They really need that for him to step up and be some more of a leader. I mean, we saw the way that Jokic in the playoffs in the end of the season really worked his tail off on defense and something he wasn't really good at.
So my biggest concern with Doncic from day one, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse, has been his maturity.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that I feel like is going to put up these incredible numbers throughout his career and be seen as an incredible player. Is he a guy that I think can go lead a team to a championship? Right now, I would say no, and it's because of those things. He's not just been a pro for 4 years in the NBA, 5 years in the NBA. He's been a pro for like 8 years.
Yeah.
Overseas, he was a pro for 3 or 4 years before he came over.
He was the MVP of the EuroLeague, I believe, as a teenager still.
Yes.
That's insane.
And so this guy has been a pro for 6, 7, 8 years. He still has not matured whatsoever when it comes to the way he addresses refs and things like that and handles himself on the court. He still, every season, will come into training camp in shape. Midway through the season, he's all of a sudden out of shape again. And that's happened every season. And there were some guys, some Dallas Mavericks, a show that I was listening to that's been like the weirdest thing is that he'll come in solid shape and they'll be like, oh, Luke is ready to go. And then midway through the season, it's like, did he get fat? Like, what happened? So there's so many things that people want to still talk about how young he is, but this dude's been a pro for 7, 8 years and has yet to take those steps that he needed to. There comes a point where it's like, is he ever going to make that? Or is he just going to be one of these guys that puts up these incredible numbers? And that's kind of what you get.
We saw it a couple of years ago with Devin Booker. I mean, for a number of years, Devin Booker was just getting his numbers, shooting up shots, right? Really wasn't leading them, really wasn't scrapping on defense, wasn't doing the things to win.
Right.
And all of a sudden it snapped. In 1 year, he came in, and it was very evident. Just say, holy cow, Devin Booker's locked in.
And yeah, and that dude's, I hated him when he was young. I could not stand that dude. And incredible scorer for sure, but I could not stand him. And it's because of those things. And he's slowly become one of my more favorite players because of his maturity, but also the way he's evolved as a ball player.
And that's kind of what we hope happens for Luka Doncic, or maybe we don't. But
it's hard to want that when you're a Jazz fan,
right? Because he would just smack us. He already has. But you need to have that mentality of a leader in being able to grind on defense, and that's what Jalen Brunson brought to the Mavericks when he was there that year.
Right.
And that's what he's doing for the New York Knicks as well. So that'll be interesting. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about just kind of the Utah Jazz and their substitution patterns, just a little bit more.
Okay.
So as I'm kind of going through this and deducing and looking at the substitution patterns, we obviously talked about it. Everybody knows we have a number of combo guards, 4 of them, and Chris Dunn, 5, trying to find a spot and get playing time.
Right.
And it looks like Will Hardy has come up with the only way that he can to get all of them on the court during the game,
which is run 4 guards.
Sometimes it's run 4 guards, and it means that there's Ochai Agbaji has been pushed to the 3 and sometimes the 4 because of it.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 players whose minutes are down lower than I think they should be because of that, and I think it's Ochai Agbaji and Walker Kessler. I think his minutes are lower than they should be.
Right, because I mean, who knows what happens when we hit the regular season, but him and Tucker have been our 2 lowest starter minutes every single game.
Yeah, and so Kessler's the first one out on the rotation every time. They bring in Kelly Olynyk, and that's usually 4 minutes in.
Yeah.
maybe 5 into the first and the third quarters. So it's interesting. You can see what Will Hardy is trying to do, and you can make the argument for every one of our combo guards why they should be in and get the playing time and what they bring to the table, because they're all strong players, right? That's part of our strength as a team, is our depth 1 through 12. But it's kind of pinching some minutes for a couple of the players down the line there, and it'll be interesting to see if that evolves a little bit as the season goes along, or if there's some trades. Obviously, the front office has shown that we're interested in getting better if the fit is good right now.
And that's a big thing.
That'll be interesting to watch.
That's a big thing. Is once we actually hit the regular season, what do these minutes truly look like? It's funny enough you mentioned trades. Something came out today that the Houston Rockets have a couple guys that they're targeting. They mentioned Malcolm Brogdon, one other guard, and then
Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah,
that is interesting.
And then it mentioned Taylor Horton Tucker. Those are like, it's come out that those are kind of the 3 guys Houston is.
So that's obviously
right
backup
now.
Point guard.
Yes,
because they're not going to put Fred VanVleet on the bench, paying him $43 million a year, whatever it is.
6-man type player that it seems like they're looking for.
And at the 2s and the 3s, they have plenty of bodies.
Mm-hmm.
They want to give us
Asar Thompson.
Amen Thompson.
Or is it Amen?
Yeah,
Amen Thompson.
Yeah, Amen Thompson.
I
accept your terms.
That's what confused me when I saw it, was all these guys they named that are targets for them right now are backup point guard, like you said, immediately backup point guard. Isn't that why they drafted Amen Thompson? To be a point guard?
That's interesting because, and we alluded to this, I think on the first podcast, number 1. If you would go back and watch that, we talked about how Houston, they've gone through the worst 3-year stretch in the organization's history, and they're making a lot of noise of, we're a grown-up team, we have veterans, we're competing now, and that's a thing that's great for them. And they've made some moves, and they signed some big contracts in the offseason. But that's also a point of leverage that if I were in the Jazz front office, I would be making phone calls about like crazy.
That's the thing, is how much do they like Tucker? And is there someone else? Maybe they're looking for Olynyk, another veteran, to bring over to that team. Is there a way to? What would you be willing to offer to get Thompson over here?
What would I be willing to offer?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
realistic, right?
Any of our combo guards not named Keontae George.
I would agree with that. I love Agbaji. Everyone who's watched these videos knows I love Agbaji. I would do that trade.
Yeah.
Just because of his potential. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So we wouldn't. I would prefer to keep Agbaji.
I'd prefer that.
But Amen Thompson is, and he's hit a decent amount of jumpers in the preseason when I've watched him, and they've done really well as a team. Actually, really explosive in transition, offense and defense. And part of that is adding Cam Whitmore and Amen Thompson to out of your draft class. I would be willing to give up any of our combo guards not named Keontae and a first, to be honest, as long as it was one of them that we didn't feel that was, I don't know, like I probably wouldn't give up the Lakers 27 pick.
Yeah.
I'd probably do one of the,
hoping that they implode by then, and
right. Even though they restocked
LeBron's
up
gone,
and depth.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, I would, just because he's shown some ability as a versatile open court defender and ball mover. I think that Asar is more of a triple double waiting to happen every night, but Amen is a special talent as well.
So let's say they call him up and they say they want Tucker, Sexton or Clarkson or Baji, another one of the guards. Let's say Sexton, Olynyk, and a first, and then there's another player on their team to make contracts work.
I think that accumulation of talent is worth it. You may say we'd be giving up 3 and a first for 1, but to land that kind of a talent that's going to be exploding over the next few years. And one thing about the Thompson brothers is everybody who works with them says they are pros.
Yeah.
They approach it the right way.
Yep.
Great attitude, great work ethic, locker room guys. To me, I would do that. It would be worth it.
I think it would make more sense for them to want Clarkson with what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
Still not clear if we can actually trade Clarkson or not. I think we can with the way his contract was structured,
Yeah, that's true.
with the rules on that. But it would make more sense that they would want Clarkson in that type of trade. But I don't know. I'm intrigued to see if something happens there. I kind of like ooh when Jazz name got popped up for the Rockets, who are obviously trying to be a win now organization.
And is that a move for them trying to replace in their mind what they thought Kevin Porter Jr. was going to be coming into the season?
Maybe.
Because most likely they're going to be able. He's going to be out of the league.
Yeah.
If that all comes through. So that would be interesting. That would be a great pickup. And then that's kind of the race that we're in. We alluded to this on the first podcast as well. Is we have to be able to find a way to assess our talent and combine it and come out with a higher level. I'm messing up on the word right now here, but it's we're in a battle with teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, like Portland, who's put together a real talented young group, and Houston, and we've got to have some of these players be traded up for bigger talents that fit and play that game.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see kind of what happens over the first part of the season if we make moves and what those are.
Wonder what's going on in Will Hardy's head, trying to figure out those rotations.
Yeah.
If he's like, I got to figure out a way to get all these guys on the court, and here's the only way that I can do it, so I'm going to roll with this for a bit.
And who knows what kind of discussions he's having with Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck, right? Yeah.
Because there's players like Sexton who struggle a little bit in the preseason, but we know that he's explosive and can really perform, and it may be just a little bit, and he'll be up to his old ways and playing great. And then we'd be grateful for it.
For sure.
Interesting.
But yeah. Let us know what you guys think about kind of the future of the young guys and the Jazz, what trades you want to see. I'm kind of curious to see what happens there.
As am I.